You guys can scoot over this way too. You can fill out. Just don't anyone stand in front of the podium. Hello. Dylan.
You guys do whatever you have to do.
Hello. How are you? We will begin shortly.
Okay, Fernie, you tell me when, okay?
If everybody's here. Is everybody here?
Okay. You tell me when. Hey, how's it
In
going?
a couple minutes.
Hey, Father Joe.
You're a role model, so. Te adora.
That's sweet. That's very sweet. I appreciate that. Where do you want us?
Just right here, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I got you. Yeah, I got you. So let's kind of scoot. Oh yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
Christian. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it looks like a kid.
Right? It looks like I added it.
You're stacking.
That's right. Oh, yes. I meant the one actually named Christian. Everybody else was like, what? Test, can you hear me? Yeah, you're good?
Hello, everybody. We're about to get started. Can I have your attention, please? Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Fernando Ceniceros. I'm the Director of Communications here for the Diocese of El Paso. Les damos la bienvenida a nuestros hermanos de la media, de las redes sociales y de las redes noticiales. Gracias por acompañarnos hoy. We'd like to thank our news media partners for being here today. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dylan Corbett, Director of the Hope Border Institute. Dylan.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome. Bienvenido. Muchas gracias por venir. I'm Dylan Corbett. I'm the Executive Director of the Hope Border Institute. We are a Catholic social justice organization that works here in the borderlands. The bells. Over and over again in recent years, our El Paso community has rallied to defend our unique character as a welcoming community. And this time is no different. This week we've seen a significant number of executive orders and actions which strike at the core of that identity. From the illegal turning away of asylum seekers to the planned deployment of a significant number of federal soldiers to the border, to the attempt to end birthright citizenship, to the threatening local officials attempting to protect immigrant families, and to the reversal of the Department of Homeland Security's sensitive locations policy, which previously, under both Republican and Democrat administrations, has restrained immigration enforcement actions where there is no immediate threat in sensitive locations like schools, community service providers, hospitals, and churches. This is a critical first chess piece if a mass deportation campaign happens in our community. In the face of these attacks today, you will hear from a number of community leaders with a common message. Leaders from our faith, healthcare, and educational communities directly affected by this change, as well as our El Paso civil and elected leaders. El Paso is and remains a welcoming community. I'll introduce each speaker. I ask each of the speakers to please limit yourself to your remarks to 3 minutes so that we can hear from all. And afterwards, for the media, we'll have folks available for individual interviews in English and in Spanish. First, I'd like to invite the Most Reverend Mark J. Seitz, the Bishop of the Roman Catholic Diocese of El Paso.
Thank you all very much, and I do appreciate you taking some time to be here. The sun is out. It's not all that cold, and it's really good that we could gather here in front of our cathedral. I want to thank the clergy who have come to be here, our auxiliary bishop, Tony Celino, my brother priests, and so many others who are here, our Catholic school students who have joined us, our community leaders and elected officials. I'm very grateful for your presence and leadership. Let me begin by saying this. El Paso is a welcoming community. We are a community built up by and enriched by the migrants. In recent years, we have been on the front lines of the arrival of those seeking asylum, and together we have marshaled an unprecedented response to meet their basic human needs. We are also a safe and resilient and beautiful borderland community. And none of that is in spite of migration. In fact, in large part, we are safe, resilient, and beautiful precisely because of migration. Because on a fundamental level, we know that now there are those who would deny that heritage and strike at the core of our identity as a borderland community. I am here with these leaders today on the steps of the cathedral to make clear that we will never be robbed of who we are. We are here today to say that El Paso is and will remain a welcoming community. The Catholic Church in the United States is an immigrant church. We believe in a God who grants to each person infinite human dignity. We believe in a God of second chances and of mercy. We believe in a God, Jesus Christ, who himself became a migrant. Do we need immigration reform? Undoubtedly. Our system is gravely flawed. But here in El Paso, we have worked hard to pick up the pieces of that broken system for years. We have pulled together as faith communities, community organizations, doctors, educators, elected leaders, law enforcement, and immigration authorities to manage immigration at the border with humanity. We have learned that the solutions for reforming America's immigration laws lie in cooperation, respect, listening to one another, compassion, and putting into place reasonable policies which keep our country safe. Recognize the gifts of and contributions of migrants and honor our commitments to those fleeing for their lives. The executive orders this week do none of these. This week, we have witnessed an unprecedented shutting down of the border to the vulnerable. Sadly, this says more about us than it does about them. We now expect the charade of an unprecedented deployment of the military to the border, untrained in asylum law or community safety. Now let me address the reversal of the sensitive locations policy. For years, this policy has ensured a basic level of sacred trust essential for a healthy and functioning community. The only currency we have as a community is trust. Yes, law enforcement must be able to do their job in order to keep us safe. And I'm thankful for our relationships with law enforcement. But that is not what the reversal of this policy does. Reversing the sensitive locations policy undermines community trust. It is a frontal attack on parents and students. It is an attack on the sick. It is an attack on those who worship God. It is an attack on our churches and faith communities. Crucially, the reversal of this policy is a necessary first step for a troubling campaign of terror. Mass deportations can never be reconciled with Christian principles or basic human decency. Indiscriminate immigration enforcement is bad policy because it diverts limited law enforcement resources away from keeping communities safe. Indiscriminate deportations are morally wrong because they treat decent human beings like criminals. Let me thank once again our community and elected leaders. It is critical that we continue to work together for the good of our community and all our people. It is essential that as faith leaders, elected officials, law enforcement, and community leaders, we work together in defense of our welcoming identity. We will be attacked, and our mettle will be tested. One day, generations from now, people will ask, what did we do today? Did we remain united in our defense of our brothers and sisters? Did we defend the character of our community and our country? Did we face down intimidation and fear with moral witness and unity? In this moral challenge, I applaud you for your conviction and courage in standing here today. For our part, as the Catholic Church in El Paso, we will continue to accompany our people. We will work to protect our families, to witness to human dignity, to defend our religious liberty, to oppose the shutting down of our borders and our hearts, to preach the good news of Jesus Christ, crucified and risen, and to oppose mass deportations. A couple words in Spanish. Frente a las tácticas de intimidación y división, la Iglesia Católica en los Estados Unidos trabajará para proteger a nuestras familias, dar testimonio de la dignidad humana, defender nuestra libertad religiosa, oponernos al cierre de nuestras fronteras y de nuestros corazones. To the immigrant community, I say this. Whatever your faith and wherever you come from, your anxieties and fears at this moment are our own. We stand with you in this moment of crisis and pledge you our solidarity, trusting that God. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bishop. I now want to invite to the podium the Honorable Cristina Sanchez, our El Paso County Attorney.
Good afternoon, and thank you for convening this very important topic. And it's hard, I will have to say. I think for a lot of us who feel the heaviness and the weight of what is happening this week with those executive orders, it is now a time to do something. And I am so privileged to serve as your El Paso County Attorney. I'm in that lawyer and as a prosecutor to handle the issues that come before El Paso County. We are in that unique role to serve victims of El Paso County. Any and all victims. We do not ask your immigration status when you walk through our doors seeking services to receive a protective order from our domestic violence unit. We do not ask your immigration status when you are seeking an emergency detention order for your loved one who is going through a mental health crisis. We do not ask and seek your immigration status when you're walking through our doors to say that you have been a victim of a crime. And there is a reason for that, because we understand the chilling effect that it has when we exclude individuals from coming through those doors. As a prosecutor, we handle these cases, we bring them forward to our courts. As your county attorney, I have the unique position and privilege to serve our elected officials, to guide them, to encourage them, to offer legal support on the pressing issues of the day. And because of that, I can uniquely say that we have been the only county throughout the state of Texas to have participated in Senate Bill 4, who seeks to deputize state officials to enforce immigration law. That doesn't work. What we have also seen throughout our time in El Paso County and throughout my time in the El Paso County Attorney's Office is when you have laws in place and when you have policy directives in place that say these areas are not safe, to include your El Paso County Courthouse, your healthcare facility, your schools, your domestic violence shelters, that will be a collective issue for this county. It will create a collective issue for our healthcare industry, for our schools, and for the individuals that are seeking help and safety in this community. We don't have to go too far. In 2017, we know what happens when ICE shows up at the courtroom ready to serve papers on a victim of a crime. Immediately after that incident, one of our victims' office provided services to, we saw the decline in individuals coming to seek assistance. This is a real life issue. This will have real life consequences for all communities. And we should be urgent and we should raise the alarm, encourage others. It is my duty as a lawyer to encourage lawyers to step up, step out of the sidelines to do something. We all have a collective responsibility, not just to speak out, not just to offer press releases, but to do real life and handle real life actions. I encourage everyone. I see our young and our youth here next to us. I see everybody out here who are wondering, what can we do? There is a lot to do. There are a lot of organizations, especially in El Paso County, which once again serves as ground zero for these issues, the testing ground for these issues. But we have fought back, and we will stand up, but we collectively as a community need to do this. Your county attorney's office, your county stand ready to do this and assist you, but we need everybody's support. So thank you all for being here, and we will continue to serve everybody that walks through our doors. Thank you.
Invite Dr. Glenn Fennelly, President of Doctors of the World.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to join these distinguished speakers today on behalf of Doctors of the World USA. The rescission of sensitive location protections, if extended to hospitals and clinics, would have a chilling effect. The growing fear of deportation, compounded by rising stigma, threatens to delay essential health services, life-saving vaccines, cancer screening, to critical medicines. The most vulnerable will bear the greatest burden, having their right to health obstructed, putting their lives at risk in many instances. The separation of families and the detention of children will exacerbate the toxic stress that has been suffered by those who have fled violence to come here to seek safety and refuge. Doctors of the World is an international health and human rights organization that believes that access to health care is a fundamental human right. To uphold this, we've worked locally alongside Annunciation House and Border Servant Corps partners and volunteers to deliver care to the most vulnerable, particularly individuals who may not have access to care otherwise. We remain resolute in our commitment to advocate for sound, evidence-based public health policy and dismantling of barriers that obstruct access to health care. Thank you.
This is an issue that affects families in our schools. I now invite Ms. Leah Hanani, our El Paso Independent School District Board Trustee for District 1.
Good afternoon. My name is Leah Hanani. I represent District 1. I'm speaking here in my individual capacity as an elected official for a district that represents the Bowie High School feeder pattern. There is nothing more sacred than the innocence of a child. Children look to the world with trust, curiosity, and hope. And as adults, it is our responsibility to nurture and protect that innocence, especially in places where they learn, grow, and dream. Let me be absolutely clear that targeting children, directly or indirectly, is unacceptable. This policy would be an attack on the safety, dignity, and innocence of our children and places them at risk in the very spaces that should be the safest, their schools. No child should have to carry the weight of fear in a classroom, no parent should have to hesitate before sending their child to school, questioning whether it is still a safe and trusted space. Schools should be the places where children feel shielded from the outside world's worries and are not burdened by them. No child should bear the weight of adult decisions. Our leaders must prioritize the safety and sanctity of schools as safe havens and ensure that they remain places where every child, regardless of their background, can feel secure, valued, and free to dream. We demand better. We demand that our leaders reverse this decision and honor the sanctity of schools. This is not a political issue, it's a moral one. No leader should accept a policy that sacrifices the safety of the most vulnerable among us. El Paso has always risen to protect its children, and we will rise again. Together, we must ensure that our schools remain sacred, untouchable spaces where every child can dream without fear. Our choices will echo far beyond this moment. The moral obligation to protect children is absolutely a reflection of who we are. I hope this moment reminds us that the security of our children is non-negotiable in El Paso, and let it challenge each of us to ensure that schools remain the safest, most trusted spaces in a child's life. There is no greater betrayal of our values in El Paso than policies that harm our children. I'll echo Bishop's sentiments and ask, what will you do to protect children from harm?
Thank you for your leadership, Leah. I now invite our county's Chief Executive, the Honorable Ricardo Samaniego, our El Paso County Judge.
Thank you. It is just a great privilege. I just want to thank the diocese and the faith-based religions that have helped us. We have worked so hard in our community to do the right things, to make sure people come in with dignity, to make sure that they feel the warmth, that we're a welcoming community. This is probably one of the most pivotal moments that I can see. I've been your county judge for 6 years. I've seen incredible people step up, as we did for the pandemic, as we did for Walmart shooting. We come together, and we come together in a way that we need to show the rest of the community, because I don't think there's anything worse right now than our community not feeling that they're in a safe environment. And I can tell you, and I hope the community understands, that the people that have spoken here today, I hope that you sense and get the confidence that we are going to do everything possible, everything that we can from every aspect. You just heard from our county attorney. You talk about courage and strength. This is an elected official that is not going to lean into being intimidated, that's not going to get out of her lane because of the administration and what they have to say. This is not a community that will do that. This is a community that will come together, and this is a community that we're going to protect. The most sacred thing that we have in this community is our family. And right now, that's the family is probably the one that's going to be in the most critical situation, because within that community, within the family, you can create a diversity, you can create different opinions, and you can break down the community. This is something that we have always upheld, and that is that the family is sacred to us. Being here, standing here, reminds us of that freedom, that I can walk into this church and I don't have to worry about what's going to happen to me or how someone that's related to me. I don't want a mom, and this is the intricacies of what's happening with the administration and the executive orders. I do not want a mother to be 5 blocks away to take their child to school because of the consequences. When a parent cannot show the boldness and cannot do the right things for the family, it's difficult for them. We are role models, and they take away the dignity of a parent being able to show their child that they are too part of keeping them safe. But think about it, having to drop off a child 3 blocks away. I mean, think about it, you as a parent, you never had to do that. I hope nobody else has to do that. So we stand here letting you know that this is not a community that's intimidated. We always become stronger. You can ask anybody. When we had the pandemic, we became stronger. The Walmart, we didn't just fall down and we did something. We came up with a healing garden. We do things in a greater portion, but the most important thing I can tell you is that we are a stronghold for the rest of the communities. A lot of communities on the border look at us because of the success that we have had, because of how we have fought for rights. So this community has become that role model. I want someone, El Paso was capable to put that line on the sand and make sure that everybody knows that it's not going to be an easy path for anybody that comes and tries to make this community less safe or not welcome. I can tell you that's not going to happen here. Just like we welcome companies and companies come because of our people. But now we're going to stand fast, we're going to do the right thing, and we're not going to go against, we understand that legal situations, we understand them. But we also have a right to fight back if there's unconstitutional things that take place. If we're violated, if personal human rights are going to take place, I commit that I'm willing not to move away from my lane because of any intimidation or worry if I am or not going to be elected. It's the last thing I'm thinking of. What I'm thinking about, how important it is for this community to continue to be the community that has been the example for so many other communities. God will make the proper waves that the entire nation understands what we're going to go through, but that we are capable of sustaining any type of violation against welcoming people or against any human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge, for your defense of our El Paso values and for defending our El Paso families. The largest, lowest cost and free legal service provider in our community is Estrella del Paso for migrants. I now invite Melissa Lopez, the Executive Director.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Melissa Lopez. I'm the Executive Director at Estrella del Paso. We've been around for almost 40 years. I'm an immigration attorney as well. I've been doing this work for 17 years. And as I'm thinking through all of the things that have happened in these first 4 days, it gives me a little bit of anxiety to think about what's to come. And we were expecting a lot of these things. So you can only imagine the chilling effect that these policy announcements will have on our community. How many people are sitting at home today who need food and aren't going to go to the food bank because they're worried that there may be law enforcement sitting outside of the food bank? How many people are not going to come to church because they're scared that that law enforcement official that they know comes to church with them might come in and detain them? How many people might avoid even coming to our because they're scared that, that coming to us, people are going to assume that they're undocumented? That's the reality that this policy and many others have. We as social service providers in this community, we have a responsibility to do what we have to do to protect this population that we serve. I can tell you from Estrella del Paso, we've already started working on policies to ensure that law enforcement is not allowed in the building unless they enter with a judicial warrant that's signed, which is what's required by law. We will continue to do the work that we do to help people legalize their status, and we won't be intimidated by these policies. Frankly, this is day 4. We still have 3 years, 361 days to go. And this is not the first of what we'll see. The intention with these policies is to break us down. And what we need from everybody that's spoken so far, what we need from our community, what we need from each of you, we need your support, not just today, not just tomorrow, but on day, 679, because the reality is the work starts now. This is just the beginning, and we have to stand together, but we also have to create safe spaces for people to be able to come to us when they need us, because that's what we're here for, and that's who we are. El Paso is a beautiful community, and I'm incredibly grateful to be here because there are so many other communities throughout the country where people are sitting home, not going out. I can tell you that I had the only time in my 17 years that I've ever had this happen, I had a client who, when I went to visit them at the detention center, had been detained for 10 days. He asked me to make a phone call for him, and the phone call was to his sister. And he asked me to tell his sister that his 8-year-old child had been alone at home since the day he was detained. In 17 years, I've only seen that happen once. Because federal law enforcement, they don't contact CPS. They don't have a duty to children when they detain their parents. That will be the first of many cases that we will hear once this policy moves forward, if we don't, as a community, act to protect people. So we have to stand by our obligations to our community and to each other as people of God, as human beings. At the end of the day, we have to protect each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I now invite Ms. Susan Goodell, the CEO of El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is such an honor to be here to stand shoulder to shoulder with so many community members, community leaders who are standing up for what is right. We stand together in challenging times, not just in good and anxiety. It's caused concern amongst the nonprofit community. I've reached out and talked with many of my colleagues across the region, across the state, and across the country, and there's a great deal of uncertainty and concern right now. But I want to assure everyone listening, I have not heard one single nonprofit express that they would no longer achieve their mission. In fact, commitment to mission is everywhere. For our clients, we're also seeing fear and uncertainty. 20% of our population relies on the food bank to put nutritious food on their tables. And what we've seen over the last few days, regardless of status, is fear and uncertainty. What will this mean? Will the food bank still be here for us? Can I still go and get food for my just as drinking water and the air that we breathe? And we are here firm every day, making sure that our community gets the nutrition they need to stay healthy and strong. I think in uncertain times, it is difficult to know what to do. And if anyone is wondering, what should I do? This is an open invitation to get involved. Whether it's with the food bank, another nonprofit, with your school, with your church, this is the time for everyone of conscience to get involved and make our community better. One of the reasons, perhaps the most, is because this is such a loving, warm, and welcoming community. And I know that it will continue to be a warm, welcoming community far into the future. Thank you all.
Thank you, Susan, and for all you do to help our families struggling with food insecurity. I now invite the Honorable Chris Canales, City Representative for District 8.
Thank you. I represent District 8 on the City Council. It encompasses, among other areas, downtown El Paso and all of the south side from Chihuahuita and Segundo Barrio to the Chamizal. Of course, that means that I represent a large portion of the international boundary. And because of that, many of the important organizations that provide care to members of our community, be that non-governmental organizations and nonprofits to faith-based organizations and various charities and shelters, they all exist within my district. Of course, many of them are here today, and they're incredible people who dedicate their lives to providing really vital support to members of our community, regardless of who they are, documented or undocumented, permanent residents of El Paso or not. I think we have some who are working to provide these folks with the support that they need. When times are relatively good, it's very easy for us to outsource the work of caring for our neighbors to these wonderful people who do this work. But when times are uncertain, like they are now, and difficult, we no longer have the option to outsource that work to those people. We all have an obligation, individually and collectively, to take on that work ourselves, to join in the effort of the people who dedicate their lives to this all the time, because I believe deeply that we as El Pasoans care about our neighbors and care about our community. It's no longer something that we can ignore. There are a few things that I want to affirm. Number one, you heard it yesterday from our chief of police. The El Paso Police Department and the city of El Paso does not conduct immigration enforcement and will not. That will not change. It's something that, for one, the city and the police department simply don't have the resources or training to do. But I also appreciate the words of the police chief and the mayor yesterday in saying that it's also a stance that we take proudly. We are not in the business of enforcing immigration. That is something that the federal government will do what they will with, but we don't have to be complicit in the decisions that they make. I also want to affirm our commitment to continue those nonprofits and NGOs and organizations that I mentioned earlier who do the important work. Now is not the time for us to waver from that commitment or that these organizations need in order to carry out their critical missions. And you heard from Ms. Goodell a few moments ago, those organizations are not wavering from their commitments, so we shouldn't waver in our support for them either. I lastly want to affirm that El Paso is a welcoming place. It's something we take a lot of pride in. Yes, there are going to be some members of our community who will be less kind or less loving to some of our neighbors, and that's very unfortunate. But on the whole, I found El Paso to always be a place that is warm, that is loving, that is caring. And I hope I'm correct in affirming that that is something that we will continue regardless of what the federal administration looks like, whatever the state administration looks like. Here in El Paso, we believe in caring for the people who are our neighbors and are here in our community, and that's something that I can affirm that will continue as long as we're around. So thank you to Hope Border Institute and the bishop and the diocese and everybody who's put this together. I think it's very important that you hear from the various levels of government, of service providers all together today, saying the same thing, affirming to you that El Paso is a place of love and that we will continue that way regardless of what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Canales. Please join me in thanking all of our speakers, our bishop, our community leaders, and our civic leaders. And please also join me in thanking our faith leaders, the many priests and the deacons of the Diocese of El Paso who are here today. Your leadership on behalf of our El Paso families is important and meaningful. Thank you very much. Let me conclude with this. Several decades ago, when dark clouds were on the horizon, Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, they did not despair, but they said this. They said, "Sí se puede." What did they say? Sí se puede. Will we defend our parents and our children, our schools? Will we defend those who are sick? Will we defend those who are worshiping God in our temples and churches and mosques? Sí se puede. Will we defend our El Paso families from vile attacks, from the closure of the border, from mass deportations, from intimidation and fear? Sí se puede. And will we defend our El Paso community's identity as a welcoming community, a place of love and beauty and vibrancy? Sí se puede. We will continue the fight. Thank you for being with us today. This is day one. This is a marathon, not a sprint. We'll continue to come to you with facts, to advocate for our families, to protect the dignity of our community and our identity. Thank you again.
We're going to go ahead and set up for individual interviews. If I can have my English media kind of set up on this side and my Spanish media over here, we'll make Bishop Mark available and all of our other speakers.